remember, I used to be a dishwasher, and I mean that. I used to clean toilets. I mean, I cleaned a lot of toilets. I've cleaned more toilets than all of you combined.
In the tech world, there are giants. And then there are the legends who literally build the skies those giants walk on. Enter the man in the iconic leather jacket, quiet, intense, and unstoppable, who's driving the entire artificial intelligence revolution. His name? Jensen Huang. Nvidia, his brainchild, once teetered on the edge of collapse. Today, it's the most valuable company on the planet, recently hitting jaw-dropping market caps of $4, even $5 trillion. That meteoric rise has catapulted Jensen into the stratosphere of wealth, with a fortune approaching $180 billion. He's the guy Mark Zuckerberg called the Taylor Swift of tech, someone whose influence is so massive, the world of AI seems to move to his rhythm. But this isn't a story that begins in a glossy Silicon Valley office. There were no venture capital handshakes, no silver spoons. Jensen's journey started somewhere much more raw and much more human. Before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Before he built a multi-trillion-dollar empire, before he was crowned the Godfather of AI, Jensen Huang was just a 15-year-old kid in a polyester uniform, washing dishes on the graveyard shift at Denny's. From the clatter of plates to the hum of the world's most advanced supercomputers, how does someone see a future no one else can, and then pull it into reality with sheer force of will? This is the story of Jensen Huang. His relentless drive, his unconventional habits, the moments that nearly destroyed his company, and the unimaginable wealth born from a vision now reshaping our world. But Jensen's story doesn't start in Silicon Valley. It begins far across the ocean, in Tainan, Taiwan, where he was born in 1963. Jensen's early life was full of constant change. When he was just 5 years old, his family moved to Thailand for his father's career in chemical engineering. But as civil unrest started to grow, his parents made a choice that would forever alter the course of his life. They decided to send their sons to America. At only 9 years old, Jensen and his brother boarded a plane to a country they had only ever seen in pictures, to live with an aunt and uncle. It was a leap into the unknown, and a world completely different from the one they'd known. Their relatives, trying to do what they thought was best, enrolled the boys in what they believed was a prestigious prep school, a decision that would shape Jensen's path in ways no one could have predicted. The reality, however, was far harsher than anyone expected. Jensen and his brother had been sent to the Oneida Baptist Institute in rural Kentucky, a reform school for troubled teens. For a 9-year-old who barely spoke English, it was a brutal crash course in survival. He was a small, foreign kid, surrounded by tough, street-smart teenagers. He was bullied, he was an outsider, and every single day felt like a test. His daily chore? Cleaning the boys' bathrooms after class. Humbling work that would unknowingly plant the seeds of relentless discipline. Back in Taiwan, his mother found her own way to fight the distance. Despite not speaking English herself, she would pick 10 random words from the dictionary each day and teach them to her sons over the phone. A small but mighty act of will, building a bridge across oceans through nothing but sheer determination. Looking back, Jensen Huang remembers his time in Kentucky more vividly than almost any other period of his life. It was a crucible that forged his unbreakable resilience. He learned to be tough, to focus, and to push through every obstacle, skills he would later call the foundation of his extraordinary work. Amid the chaos, he found a small refuge: table tennis. So good, in fact, that he appeared in Sports Illustrated at just 14 years old. After 2 long years, his parents finally immigrated to the U.S., reuniting the family in Oregon. The boy who emerged from that Kentucky school was no longer just a survivor. He was driven, academically gifted, and unstoppable. Jensen skipped 2 grades, dove headfirst into math and science clubs, and graduated from Aloha High School at only 16. The hardships hadn't broken him. They had sharpened him, instilling a grit and work ethic that would define his future. He had learned early on, Nothing in life would ever be handed to him. At just 15 years old, while still in high school, Jensen Huang got his first real job. It wasn't a fancy tech internship. He became a dishwasher at a local Denny's, later promoted to busboy. And this isn't just a footnote on his resume. He lists it proudly on his LinkedIn profile, right above founder, president, and CEO of Nvidia. To most people, it's a typical teenage job. To Huang, it was one of the most important lessons of his life. He didn't see it as a chore, he saw it as a system to be optimized. "I was a good dishwasher," he said. "I planned my work. I was organized." That's pure engineer talk, breaking a messy problem into manageable parts and executing with maximum efficiency. He learned to manage chaos, perform under the pressure of an endless stream of dirty dishes, and move with precision and purpose. When he was promoted to busboy, he applied the same mindset. "I was certain I was the best busboy Denny's ever had," he recalled. It was more than scrubbing plates. It was his first real lesson in discipline, optimization, and pride in work. Lessons that would later fuel a multi-trillion-dollar empire. "I never left the station empty-handed, and I never returned empty-handed," Jensen Huang recalls. This wasn't just about clearing tables. It was systems thinking in action. An early, hands-on education in process optimization that no university could ever teach. Denny's didn't just teach him efficiency, it taught him people. It taught him humility. It taught him how to handle difficult customers under pressure. "It teaches you humility. It teaches you hard work," Huang said. The bustling, high-stress diner was, in many ways, the perfect training ground for the relentless world of startups. Every coffee pot balanced, every plate cleaned, every chaotic shift was a lesson in grit and commitment to excellence, no matter how small the task. It was his first unofficial MBA, earned not in a classroom, but over a hot sink and sticky countertops. After graduating high school at just 16, Huang's ambition was already clear. He enrolled at Oregon State University, not chasing prestige, but seeking an affordable in-state education. He dove headfirst into the demanding world of electrical engineering, graduating in 1984. It was in the labs of OSU that another pivotal chapter of his life began. His lab partner, Lori Mills, became more than a study buddy. They fell in love amidst circuit diagrams and soldering irons. She would go on to become his wife and lifelong partner. After graduation, Huang moved to the heart of Silicon Valley, stepping into the tech world as a microprocessor designer at AMD, and later rising to director at LSI Logic. It was the start of a journey that would eventually reshape the entire world of computing. He was at the heart of the computing revolution, crafting the very chips that were beginning to reshape the world. But he wasn't content to stop there. Determined to push further, he signed up for graduate night classes at the renowned Stanford University. Balancing a high-pressure career while tackling some of Stanford's toughest courses was no small feat. Yet, in 1992, he earned his master's degree in electrical engineering. That rare mix of real-world experience and elite academic training gave him a perspective few could match. He didn't just know how to build a chip, he understood why it worked the way it did. He could see the bigger picture, the future of computing, and exactly where the next giant leap had to happen. And he was becoming obsessed with a different kind of challenge: graphics. The rising world of 3D video games demanded a type of processing that regular CPUs just couldn't handle. Thousands of tiny calculations, all happening at once. What was needed was a completely new kind of chip, and Huang was convinced he knew how to build it. At 30, armed with a world-class education, years of hands-on experience, and a bold, revolutionary idea, he had everything he needed, except for one thing: a plan and a place to bring it to life. The year was 1993. On his 30th birthday, Jensen Huang met up with two friends and fellow engineers, Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priem. All three were seasoned veterans of the chip world, and all shared the same conviction. The future of computing was heading in a direction everyone else was ignoring. They didn't meet in some sterile boardroom or fancy office. Instead, they huddled in a booth at a humble Denny's in East San Jose. Why Denny's? Unlimited coffee, and no one would kick them out. It was the perfect place to hatch a game-changing idea. The trio believed the next wave of computing wouldn't be driven by spreadsheets or business apps. It would come from video games. They saw that creating realistic 3D graphics was a massive, unsolved problem. Their bet: video games would be the killer app to fund a new kind of processor, the graphics processing unit, or GPU. Over plates of cheap diner food and endless refills of coffee, they debated names for their new venture. Envision, one suggested, but Huang had a bolder idea, a name inspired by the Latin word for envy. They wanted their competitors to be green with it, and just like that, Nvidia was born. The founding of Nvidia was as humble as the diner booth where the idea was born. With just $40,000 in the bank, the company officially existed. But even that story is small scale. To file the incorporation papers, Huang's lawyer demanded $200 in cash. He had it, but then had to go back to his co-founders and ask each for their $200 share. Their strategy was audacious. Nvidia was betting its entire future on a niche market most considered frivolous: video games. But Huang and his team believed that by tackling the hardest problems in graphics, they could create a processing architecture so powerful its potential would stretch far beyond gaming. It was a trillion-dollar bet, made over coffee and pancakes in a Denny's booth. The early years were a white-knuckle fight for survival. Nvidia was built on a string of bet-the-company moments, and Huang has admitted that at several points, the company was just 30 days away from going under. Their first product, the NV1, launched in 1995 and flopped. It used a different type of graphics rendering that the market simply rejected, and the company had poured its tiny capital into the wrong technology. It was a devastating blur. Nvidia's next big break came from a partnership with gaming giant Sega, which contracted them to develop the chip for its new Dreamcast console. On paper, it looked like a golden opportunity, but after a year of grueling development, Huang faced a gut-wrenching truth. Their chip architecture was, once again, the wrong bet for the PC market. With nerves of steel, he made the agonizing call to walk away from the Sega contract, fully aware it would breach their agreement and cut off critical funding. The decision nearly sank the company, forcing layoffs of more than half their employees. But in a twist of fate, Sega's CEO, impressed by Huang's conviction, offered a lifeline, a crucial investment that kept Nvidia alive. That brush with disaster sparked a razor-sharp focus. Nvidia poured every remaining resource into one make-or-break product, the Riva 128. This time, they got it right. The chip was a success, and in 1999, Nvidia finally went public. That same year, they launched the revolutionary GeForce 256, hailed as the world's first true GPU. But the late 90s and early 2000s weren't a smooth ride. They were the era of the graphics wars, a brutal showdown against rivals like 3DFX that would test Nvidia's mettle every step of the way. Then came the dot-com bust. The entire tech industry was in free fall. Nvidia survived, but the experience left a mark. It hardened Huang's leadership philosophy. He learned to operate with a constant sense of paranoia, a belief that disaster was always just around the corner. By the mid-2000s, Nvidia had cemented its dominance in gaming, but Huang's vision went far beyond making games look realistic. He and his engineers realized that the core architecture of a GPU, a massive collection of simple processors all working in parallel, was perfect for any problem that could be broken into thousands of simultaneous calculations. In essence, the gaming engine they had built was a supercomputer on a chip. The catch? Programming a GPU for anything beyond graphics was brutally difficult. To unlock its full potential, Huang knew they had to make it accessible to everyone. That realization led to one of the most important moves in Nvidia's history. In 2006, they launched CUDA, the Compute Unified Device Architecture. For the first time, developers could tap into the massive parallel power of Nvidia GPUs using standard programming languages. It was a bold, audacious leap, and it would change the world of computing forever. The company poured billions into developing CUDA, a massive gamble on a market that barely existed. They gave the software away for free, hoping to build a community of developers who would find new ways to use their hardware. At first, adoption was slow. The first to embrace it were academic researchers and scientists. For years, this part of Nvidia's business remained niche, almost invisible, and Wall Street watched skeptically. Then, in 2012, everything changed. At a major AI competition, a neural network called AlexNet achieved a breakthrough in image recognition, far outperforming anything that had come before. The secret? It had been trained using 2 Nvidia GeForce GPUs. This was the Big Bang moment for modern AI. It proved, once and for all, that GPUs were the engine driving deep learning. Suddenly, Huang's decade-long multi-billion-dollar bet on CUDA paid off spectacularly. He wasn't just a chip maker anymore, he had become the primary arms dealer for the coming AI revolution. He hadn't stumbled into the AI boom. In many ways, he had willed it into existence. The AI boom transformed Jensen Huang into a global titan. His net worth soared to nearly $180 billion, placing him among the world's top 10 richest people. That kind of wealth could have fueled ostentation, but Huang's lifestyle is a study in understated luxury. His real estate holdings are staggering. A sprawling estate in Los Altos Hills, a magnificent beachfront mansion in Hawaii, and a $38 million modern mansion on San Francisco's Billionaire's Row. Yet despite all this, Huang's public image is defined by a single consistent choice: his black leather jacket. Unlike Steve Jobs' turtleneck, it wasn't a carefully crafted branding move. It was born of practicality. For years, his wife Lori and his daughter have managed his wardrobe. Most clothes made him itch. When his wife found a leather jacket that was comfortable, she bought several more. What started as a simple solution has become an iconic symbol of Huang's leadership: consistent, practical, quietly confident. Perhaps even more remarkable is his leadership style. At the helm of a multi-trillion-dollar company, Huang keeps a shockingly flat structure with only about 60 direct reports. He doesn't do one-on-one meetings. His reasoning? Radical transparency. He believes that privileged access to information creates power imbalances, and he wants none of it in his company. By addressing all 60 senior leaders at once, Huang ensures everyone operates from the same information, making Nvidia agile and decisive. That relentless work ethic is balanced by a deep commitment to giving back. He and his wife established the Jensen and Lori Huang Foundation, which, thanks to Nvidia's skyrocketing value, now holds assets worth over $10 billion, making it one of the largest private foundations in the U.S. Their philanthropy focuses on higher education and STEM initiatives, with major gifts to their alma maters, Oregon State University and Stanford. Yet despite the scale of their giving, the foundation stays quietly out of the spotlight. No website, no full-time staff, mirroring Huang's humble, results-driven approach. Jensen Huang's journey is a masterclass in vision, resilience, and unconventional leadership. From Denny's Diner to shaping the future of AI, his story proves that the boldest bets often build the greatest empires. If you found this story inspiring, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the minds of tech's greatest visionaries, and let us know in the comments, which part of Jensen Huang's journey surprised you the most?